Yo, what's up everybody? I'm Luke with Owls TV and we are a premium Delta 8 manufacturer, and we are going to talk to you today about a little thing called extracts. And there are many extracts that are currently available on the market, and they have now, when I say the market, typically we think of extracts as being something that is predominantly with marijuana, and so these have now come into the hemp space, and they have also now sort of blended with sort of Delta 8. And so I just want to provide a little bit of clarity for everyone so you have an understanding of the different terms associated with different extracts. And then we will have a following episode because we're going to drop our own extracts. Yeah. So let's get right into it. So first of all, as you've all probably heard of right now, but the first one is BHO. So BHO stands for butane hash oil. And butane hash oil basically just means that the extracts, meaning the extract was extracted with butane. And what came out of that was BHO. And BHO is a very general term, definitely used back in the day. Now it's just developed so much. It's like BHO used to just be like Shatter, or literally just like the oil that came out of the machine. And for any of you who don't understand how extraction works, imagine you have like a column. The column is filled with flour meaning like cannabis or hemp or whatever it is. The butane is run over the column, and all of the biomass material is left inside, and all of the oils are stripped from the flour, and then that is collected in the bottom, and then that will go through a vacuum purging process. After that process happens, then you can do different things to it to turn it into other extracts, which is what I'm going to get into now. So first things first, next is Shatter, right? So everybody and their mother, I'm sure, has heard of Shatter. If you haven't heard of Shatter, Shatter is basically like a thin slab of butane hash oil. Shatter is always made with butane. It's not made with ethanol or CO2. And it is basically like, imagine once you have all of the extract, it's put in thin sheets, and then it is vacuum purged. And then depending on the terpene content, it will either shatter like glass, or sometimes it's what's called pull and snap, meaning you sort of have to pull it and you go, and it snaps. A funny thing to tell you is that often people are looking for, I want the glass like Shatter, but the glass like Shatter literally has no terps. So you're literally getting a product that has no terps. So for the uneducated people, you want the terps. And so just getting something that is like, it's like just saying, hey, I want the alcohol. And I don't want flavor, right? I don't want beer. I just want alcohol. And so, hey, some people, maybe that's you, but overall, that's the two different types of shatter. It's either pull and snap, or else it is just shatter. It's like glass, like Shatter. And I will say that color is something. I say something because like everything has changed so much where you can remediate color now, so it's sort of hard to tell. But typically, concentrates that are more yellow would be more pure, meaning that a higher quality extract was used. However, the darker ones you sort of want to stay away from, depending on what that extract is. There's a term called CRC. It's color remediation columns, that basically mean it doesn't matter what you put in because you can get a blonde color when it comes out. So then it comes back to the nose and smelling it. But so Shatter, when it first came out, was like, oh my God, look at this oil. And after that, things began to get a little bit more interesting. The first thing is you have sugar. So if you have a higher terpene content, what will happen is when you lay out that slab, when you put it in the vacuum oven, the terps will basically create nucleation points, which inhibit the slab turning into like a sheet of glass, and instead it turns into what is called sugar. It's, imagine just like anything else, like sugar, it's like small little granular pieces that it wouldn't be pull and snap. In fact, you'd use a tool to utilize to be able to use it. It's pretty sticky, can be pretty messy, and overall it's not very stable. Now after sugar came along, then the next thing was as well, hey, what if we could make the sugar bigger, right? We're seeing that the TH, and typically, by the way, obviously I'm talking about THCA here, meaning that when marijuana is extracted, the THCA is what is turning into these nucleation points. For hemp, it would be CBDA. And so when these nucleation points happen, then the question was, wait a second, can we turn this into like bigger rocks? And so we now have diamonds. And so diamonds are created by pressurizing the container. And long story short is that you add extra butane, you create more pressure, and you put it in a jar. And the long story short is that as you release a little bit of pressure, the THCA will literally drop out of the solution and come to the bottom. So you have these sort of rocks at the bottom. And that is called diamonds. And so diamonds are literally like crystallized THCA, could be CBDA. We wouldn't really call it for CBD, but it's typically THCA. Now, what happens is imagine once you pressurize this and the diamonds fall out, then what's left in the rest of the solution? Well, that separate layer is called sauce. And sauce is an extremely high content of terpenes. It's very liquidy, and so it moves around a lot, and it is very terpy. It's got a lot of flavor, so it could have a lot of terpenes, and it would have a lower amount of cannabinoids. So look at that more like for people who, rather than drinking vodka or whiskey, this is more getting into like your different beers, your fine red wines, that type of thing where you smell it, whoa, that smell, and from that strain, and it was grown like this. And so that's what sauce is. And typically you will have sauce mixed with diamonds because you don't want to just have isolated rocks. You want to have a little bit of flavor with that. So that's what sauce is. And then when after that, we also have a couple more, which is crumble and crumble and batter. So crumble is basically a process whereby when you pour the slab, depending on the extract of terps and everything like that, but you just leave it sit on heat without any vacuum. So you're not pulling out anything, you're just letting it sit on the heat. And what will happen is that it doesn't turn into sugar where there's these nucleation points, but instead it turns into this almost like a fluff, sort of like almost like, I don't want to say a soap bar, but it's more of a fattier content. And so it's what is called crumble, and it's almost like the cheese with the holes in it. And so that is something that would have much more flavor to it, and it's a different consistency where it's easier to work with. It's not shatter, it's not sugar, and so that is called crumble. And it's typically drier than wetter. When crumble becomes pretty wet, and then you can actually just whip it up. And by whip it, I mean like an egg batter, right? You batter the thing up. It basically turns into a paste, and a paste can be higher in terpene content, and is something that now, as this whole extract industry has evolved, it has now turned into that these extracts such as more higher terpene content, such as like batters, sauce, even some sugars, are far more desired than shatter and some of the more basic extracts. Now, once you get down to that, then we sort of switch over to the solventless side. And the solventless side is rosin. And there's a lot of different types of rosin. Is basically utilizing pressure and heat to just squeeze the buds and release all of the goodies. And you get this really rich oil. The one thing about it is that it really costs a lot of money because it is not very scalable. So it's very small presses. And so it's not like with regards to butane where you can literally have, 60, 70, 80 pound runs. And instead it's like you might have a few grams done at one time unless you have multiple machines. So for people who are like, oh, I don't want anything to do with solvents, then rosin is your choice. It has a lot of flavor and it is definitely more of an exotic choice. There is all different tiers, and so you then also have what's called 6-star hash. 6-star hash is basically a process whereby you use water and ice. In some cases, they don't even use ice. And what happens is you shake off all the trichomes, and then you filter these trichomes through different bags, and you end up literally with a white paste, almost like cocaine or something like that was like a white sort of paste. And it is something whereby you would then purify it, and you, depending on your situation, you can either press it or you can just leave it as is. And it is a super, the smell, the terps is like out of this world. But again, the yields are so small that it is very, very expensive. And that's basically everything. The last one I'll jump back over to butane is live resin. So live resin versus cured resin. Live resin is basically you are extracting the buds as soon as they're chopped, they're frozen right away, and then they're extracted. So everything remains cold and you pull all those terpenes. And it is because you lose a lot of terpenes when you dry the buds, and because terpenes are actually solvents and they literally will evaporate off. And so when that happens, there's some people that say, well, live resin is sort of like a cheap man's way of making a lot of money, right? It's like you literally just grow it out, you freeze it, you don't need to cure it, you extract it, it's done. And that's why there's a lot of live resin being available on the markets right now. And the other one would be cured resin. So you actually take care of the buds after they're done. You cure them because terpenes will convert into other terpenes that are more flavorful. And so it's just different ends of the spectrum. You have to make the decision what's best for you. Stay tuned for our episode that's going to be released in the next day or two, where we are going to drop our extracts. And so now that you have a good understanding of them, I will give you a little bit of data on what we've done and what we've created. So I hope you've enjoyed the content. I hope you learned something new today. Thank you for watching. Don't forget, like and subscribe. Thanks.